So Christie, pleasure to meet you. So 50 years in show business, got a new album, new single, 50-date tour. You must be working harder than ever now.
I think this year's going to be one of the busiest years I've had. I mean, obviously in the early 70s when all the hits were happening around the world, I was sort of forever on the road and flying away and spending weeks and weeks and weeks away. And probably working in those days about 330 days a year, upon year, just a couple of weeks holiday with my wife and kids. That's how it was in those days.
Yeah.
And when you've sort of struggled in your early life, you grab it when you get the opportunity. You sort of grab it and just take you just work and work and work.
Super. But I mean, over the half a century, what would you say are your most sort of treasured times? Not necessarily the most successful, but the most important for yourselves personally.
On the music side, or
both really.
or everything. Well, the fact, I mean, I still can't believe that I'm here 50 years since I did my first gig, and I'm still current. I mean, I know I've had my sort of, which most artists have, their peaks and their troughs.
50 years.
I've had several of them. But I've been very fortunate the fact that whenever it's gone down, sort of say in the UK, I've suddenly had a big success somewhere else in the world, and so it's sort of sustained me. I've all managed between all the continents, managed to keep a sort of very steady contour line going. So I'm very, very fortunate in that respect.
So Germany was a good market.
Germany's always been an absolute marvel for me. I had my first hit there in '71, and every decade I've had a big hit and big albums, and I keep going back there and I'm in the middle of a tour at the moment. I'm doing sort of every 3 or 4 days, every week 3 or 4 days, and then flying back a couple of days at home, out again, and doing this big theatre tour. That's before my proper tour.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to say you kick off next month with starting in, is it the same in South Yorkshire?
What I'm doing is, my first gig was, because I used to be a double act. I used to be singing with my mate, and I played guitar and we sang sort of Elvis and Everly Brothers and all that kind of stuff. And so this little working men's club in South Yorkshire, where in the town I was born, is the first gig we actually got paid for singing, and so that's where we're going to do the first show of the tour.
They're going to be quite an emotional night for you?
Yeah, I think so, because there's probably going to be some of my schoolmates there, and people I know, because I've been on the road since I was sort of 17, 18, and don't very often get back. The only time I get back is to see my mum, who still lives there. So it will be very emotional to be back there. I'm looking forward to it, because it holds about 200 people, and I'm going in there with as much of my production as I can get in there, because I've got a 9-piece band, and with the sound and everything, a little 200-seater room.
So
it's going to be interesting.
What makes you more nervous? Sort of the larger venues or the smaller ones?
I think the smaller ones, because you're right there, you can see the breathing and all that, With the places like the Albert Hall, it's so big that I don't know, you can't see the back at all.
Yeah, I just saw you at the Royal Albert Hall in October, and just mentioned the Beatles Philharmonic tribute.
Yes.
And what are your memories of that night?
Quite scary, really, because I was doing a song that I don't normally sing, and sort of to go on a big stage and do a Beatles song, which
Long and Winding Road.
The Long and Winding Road, I did, and it was just once I got over the first 2 or 3 words, the old adrenaline kicks in, and all fear, the fear sort of dissipates.
Yeah.
What was frightening me was making a mistake lyrically, but thank God we had auto cues there, so that takes a lot of pressure off.
Yeah, definitely. But the new single, so it's just about to come out, the new album and stuff. The new single, Nobody in the World. What is that about? How did it come about?
Well, about 11 years ago, I did a single with a band called the All Seeing Eye.
Yeah.
Called Walk Like a Panther. The song. It was my first.
99.
99 was it? Yeah, it's 12 years ago now. And it was my first sort of. It went top 10. It was my first chart since I think 1996 or 76 or 75. So it was sort of 25 years maybe. And the people I work with were actually producers, 2 producers, a bit like Fatboy Slim that have to have a name, you know.
Yeah.
And I got, when we had this hit, we never saw each other for another 10 years. And then we were deciding what to do for this new album for the 50th. And we said, well, why don't we get together with that All Seeing Eye producers and do a sort of retro, sort of 60s vibey album, which is what we did. It was very easy working with them because they're just great people to work with, and very talented, and there was no pressure. We had about 4 or 5 months to make the album, and whenever I got a few days off, I'd drive up to Sheffield and do a bit more singing, and that's how we worked it.
I mean, how did that collaboration come about in the first place then? Did they approach you, or?
They sent, I got a phone call from my sister-in-law, and she said there's some people from Sheffield who are trying to get hold of you. They've got a song they want to produce you, and it's been written for you by Jarvis Cocker. So I said, well, tell them to give me a ring, give me my phone number. So I was living in Spain at the time. And they rang and said, look, we've got this song for you, Jarvis has written it for you. Would you be interested? I said, well, yes, send it to me and I will listen.
Is this the Made in Sheffield now?
No, this was the one. This was the one, Walk Like a Panther.
Oh, well,
this was Walk Like a Panther. This is going back to those,
yes,
you know.
Tonight, sorry.
So that's how, I mean, I was still living in Spain at that time. So they sent it, and I initially said no, but it was my son who heard it and said, look, you've got to do it. He says, I don't know what it is about this song. It's something very quick. Do it. So I said, all right. So I flew back, did it, went back to Spain and forgot all about it. And the next thing I know, radio wanted playing it to death, and it became a top 10 hit. So,
yeah, it was a great track. I don't think anyone.
But the main in Sheffield. Again, that was a strange thing. I was recording down in Somerset, and on the way back to the hotel one night, I listened to Radio 2, and they played Richard Hawley, Cole's Corner.
Fantastic.
Well, Cole's Corner is a famous landmark in Sheffield, which I know. And I just said to my son, I said, you know, it sounded great. I said, that's the sort of stuff I should be doing. Lovely song, beautiful lyrics, lush strings.
Yeah.
And he said, he looked at me going out, he says, don't you remember this song? I said, no. He said, well, Richard Hawley sent you that 4 years ago, at the height of the Amarillo.
Yeah.
When it was all going around. He says, and he says, I think you heard the first few bars and nothing happened. So I said, well, we were so busy at the time that I couldn't get around to doing it. So I said, but I'd like to do that. I said, I'm going to do it on this album. So he said, well, how about Richard Hawley producing it? That'd be a great idea. So he rang Richard, and Richard Hawley said, I'll tell you what, why don't I make a full album of songs, all Sheffield songs, all to do with Sheffield artists, Sheffield writers. So I said, well, like what? He said, well, just think of all the Sheffield artists there are.
Yeah, there's a
We
lot.
went through loads of them. Oh my God, yeah. And we had a meeting and went through all, just playing songs upon songs, sung by complete unknown writers, but such great songs, you know, that have been around for 15 years, some of them. And we just wheeled it down to about 10, 11, 12 songs. And again, what I did was I drove there every day, because I know Richard. I drove there every day.